Hey guys, this is just a quick one. It's a 95 F-150 XLT. It's got a 5.8 liter and it's a 4-wheel drive. And you can see online when you have a leaking oil pan, there's a lot of people have been jacking the motors up and changing the oil pan out without pulling the motor. So what you got to do is you jack the motor up as high as it'll go, and then you take the oil pan off. But to do that, you have to take the oil pump off at the same time. And I tried this because I listened to the internet because I'm an idiot. Don't do this. Just pull the motor. It's so much more work. So I've already started putting it back together, but the oil filter cooler that's down there, I had to take that off. I had to take this off, which means I had to drain that. I had to take the air box off. I had to take these guys off. You still have to take all the exhaust off to clear. All I had to do basically was, because I had to drain the radiator to take that cooler off to get it actually out of the way. So, I mean, you're already crawling underneath the thing. Take the transmission loose, pull the motor. It would have been so much faster. But I was so deep into this no pulling the motor thing, it just took forever. It really did. I've been working on this Friday and Saturday. And here it is, like 9:30 on Saturday night. I'm just starting to put it back together. I could have had the motor out in, hour and a half. Put the oil pan, swap the oil pan out, and put it back in all in the same day with no problems. And the thing is, when you're doing this, I'll walk around there. I don't want to make this too long because I'm just gonna push it up there. But when you're doing this, when you're pulling it out in the oil pan out in the with the motor in it, you got to disconnect all your exhaust, because it's got to move back. It's got to move back to clear the backside of that oil pan. And like, this is one thing, and so on the top of this thing, there's a bunch of stuff on it. It's not just the exhaust. There's some EGR stuff on there, and I'm telling you, it took me a full day just to get the exhaust to move back on this old rusted thing. And I'm not complaining about the job. I'm complaining about somebody not telling me to just pull the motor. I should have just pulled the motor. I'm telling you, it's a whole lot easier. Pull the motor. Spend an hour, pull the motor. Swap the oil pan out and be super confident in all of your work. And then put the motor back in. It's if I do this again for some reason on another F-150 of this year, make, and model, I'm going to pull the motor. There's no way I'm going to spend a day climbing around underneath an engine with a jack holding it up, trying to get at bolts, and I had to grind one of my wrenches down, because on the oil pump, because I'm like, well, I'm swapping out, I'm disconnecting the oil pump, I'm taking it out. So on the oil pump, where it connects to the motor, yeah, there's a clearance issue on the one that I put in there. It's probably on this side because it's a clearance issue here too, which is no problem to get it out, right? Because you just got to get enough on there to loosen it one time. But when you're tightening it, you really want to get it tight. And no, couldn't do it. So, not to mention that I had to pull the distributor, because the oil pump drives the distributor, right? As we all know. Or I'm sorry, the distributor drives the oil pump via the cam gear in this guy right here, this hex head. So I had to mark it, pull the distributor, because you couldn't get that bar in, the driver in the oil pump and the distributor while the pan is 3 inches away from the bottom of the engine, and you're leaning over this ridiculousness trying to put the bolts in and line everything up. Just, it's not worth it, man. Pull the engine. It's so much easier. Anyway, that's the hot tech tip of the day. If you're working on one of these guys and you're doing an oil pan, just pull the motor. It's so much easier.